home books, and it was in the sort of in the front of the book, and then I picked that out long when I was a little kid. You know, I thought that was a good uh, layout for a house.
You picked it a long time ago, before you even met Grandpa. You picked it a long time ago
Oh,
before,
oh yeah, yeah. I had that. Yeah,
and then he
and
liked the house
not
too.
not much is is changed. I mean, in the house, and this, for a while we rented the house out, and the one bedroom was the kitchen. It's on which side of the so, uh, but uh, and we rented it uh, not too long, not too long,
Until
and
you had Mary.
and the yeah, we we had a young couple in there for about a year, I think, and then they moved to Indianapolis or someplace, and we had a older lady. Uh, it was nice for a couple or something. You couldn't have 10 kids in
No.
it.
So then when you got more kids, then you didn't rent it out anymore?
See, in the kitchen was right up to the left as you go up the steps over that way. It's a small kitchen.
Now, who lived next door? Who lived over
Mr.
there?
Mr. Kruetzkamp, his Mrs. Kruetzkamp died uh, early. I mean, she didn't. He lived over there, and then Adelaide and some of the girls uh, lived there for a while. And the youngest one was the last. She got married. She lives down on the 3L highway somewhere.
What did his house look like? Mr. Kruetzkamp's
That
house?
well, it had a great big kitchen, and uh, it had an entrance on that side with the steps went up here, and it was like a little porch. It was really nice. And then across the back of it, they had each they had 7 children, and each one had a cubicle of so big that they could hang their clothes and their school bag out, any junk that they had. But it had to be in there and the door closed, you know. But they had that across the back. I don't know what's over there now. I think these people, I think their kitchen is where the dining room was next. And they had a really nice dining room. They had a porch all across the back, and they had an entrance to that porch from the dining room and from the kitchen. It was really nice in the summertime, or in the wintertime. The kids used to play out there. They had glass. They had it encased in glass, and for the winter, and it was really a nice dining room. It had a nice fireplace in it, and they had a fireplace in the living room too. And they had steps that went up from the hallway, as you see the front door that went up to this. Uh, they kind of went up and then turned. It was a pretty home. It was a pretty home. He took good care of it. Had a rookwood fireplace in it. It was really a nice home.
Did any of your brothers go off to war? Do you remember any of your brothers? Were they
No,
drafted?
my brothers were all too young to.
To-
Uh,
None of them went into any of the wars?
no, they didn't go away.
Oh,
They uh, worked for service, but they didn't have to. You know, they weren't shipped out.
what about Tick? Who is Tick?
Tick,
Yeah, who's Tick?
Tick, Tick was my mother's brother.
What was he like?
Oh, he was a handsome brute. he he was he he was a nice looking man. She was built big. She had 6 brothers, I think.
And she
Mom.
was the only girl?
She was the only girl.
Yeah. She was the oldest? Was she the oldest?
She was the oldest.
So she took care of all of them. Did her,
She had to take care of them.
the mother died young? Their mother died
Yeah,
young?
yeah. Her mother. I don't remember her mother. She died when I was about 2, I think. She didn't. I think she was sickly most of her life. Of course, they didn't know what was wrong with you. You know, they treated you for something that wasn't the right thing at all.
Yeah. When you had all the kids, like Tunny and David, and who was the worst? Who gave you the most trouble? Of all of your kids, who gave you the most trouble?
I don't. I didn't have much trouble with them.
No trouble. No. Do you remember Christmas? What was Christmas like?
Oh, well, the kids believed in Santa Claus, and you hide the stuff anywhere, and they were smarter than we were. They, they'd take their nap and they'd go in and play with play with their Christmas toys. You know, you didn't know if they were all quiet. You thought they were sleeping up there.
Now, when did you decorate the Christmas tree? How did you do the Christmas
Oh,
tree?
you did that the night before Christmas. Santa Claus did that. You never, they never saw. Of course, we thought they didn't see anything, but they used to pretend that they were taking a nap and they'd play with their toys upstairs in a back bedroom.
So, what did you have for Christmas dinner? Do you remember what did you have for Christmas
we
dinner?
we always had turkey. Yeah,
Okay, turkey.
my poor mother always had a big meal. She'd work have it ready, you know, the night before, and then cook it, and we'd eat about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And her father was still living, and she had 2 brothers that were still at home, and they would come, they'd eat with us. That was the good old days.
Good old days, yeah. What did you have what did they get for toys? What kind of toys did you buy the kids? What kind of toys did they?
You didn't, the little kids might have got a little kitty car, but you got a book, you know, storybook or a game. You didn't get big toys. Maybe you might have get a dress.
Did you sew any?
That was the dress for Easter.
Did you sew their doll clothes? Do you remember sewing their doll clothes for the girls?
My mother didn't. She had all she could do with taking care of the kids and trying to keep things patched. She didn't sew many doll clothes.
Did you for your girls? Do you remember sewing doll clothes?
Oh, I did. I like to do it.
So you sewed the girls like for their dolls for Christmas?
Yeah, I like a bride dress. You know, I'd get somebody give me a lady up that I took piano lessons for a while, and her mother did sewing, and she saved little scraps, and I put them together and make something for the doll.
Do you remember buying any of the dolls for your daughters? Do you remember buying dolls for your little girls?
Buying them?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we never got. You know, they weren't expensive. They weren't like they are now. I mean, they were happy.
Yeah. The boys liked trains. Tell me, what was the trains like that they had? Because like Bobby and David and Tunny had the trains. What were the trains like?
Oh, they weren't like elaborate like they are now. They were I don't, they might have them down there.
What was the train layout like? Do you remember the train layout?
Oh, it just ran around your Christmas tree. It wasn't a big one that went halfway through.
Did they have a train layout
See,
downstairs?
when we had the one down here, it went through the pipes of, he would, Ferg was pretty good at it. He'd draw a picture like of a tunnel on the pipe, but the train would go around to the other side, come out. It looked like it was going through the pipes down there.
That was a big train layout.
It went around it was at that end where his workbench is. It was all, most of it was flat, but some of it went in and out of the, looked like the pipes, but it wasn't. He'd just draw a picture of it, that it was going through a tunnel. And painted black and put a little jazz on it.
Where did they get the trains? Did they get the trains for Christmas? Did the boys get the trains for Christmas?
Oh yeah. It was, later on they got an electric, but it was a wind up.
When they were little then.
But the pipes on the furnace, he'd paint those like it was going through a tunnel.
Do you remember any of the kids going to the hospital? Any of your kids?
One, I can't remember who was in the hospital Christmas night.
Oh,
Isn't that funny? One of them.
now did Tunny didn't he get a pot stuck on his hand or something, Tunny? Did Tunny get a pot stuck on his hand? Did Tunny?
Lord, one was always doing something.
Who fell out of the loft? Didn't somebody fall out of the loft? When you had the big barn over here?
Yeah, but there happened to be hay or something, some kind of food for the Mr. Kruetzkamp had. He had, what did he have? He always had something.
Cow.
He it was over that way. He had a big barn. It was a nice one. The kids the boys used to have a Boy Scout in the top of it, but then he always used to have a horse, at least one horse.
Did you ever ride the horse?
Mr. Kruetzkamp did.
Did he?
Uh-huh.
Did he? Where did you get the cane that's in the dining room? You've got a cane it's a black cane and it's got a silver handle.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I think that was Mr. Kruetzkamp's.
That was Mr. Kruetzkamp. Where did
Uh-huh.
he get that? Where did he get that nice cane?
I don't remember.
Did he work for the bank?
Yeah. Does it say bank on
I
it?
think it does. I think it does.
Oh, does it? Yeah, he was a teller or a cashier or something down at People's Liberty down in Covington. Yeah, he worked there a long time. He was a little thin man.
And they gave him the cane? That was a gift?
They gave him, for I don't know how many years he had worked, and they gave him the cane. I don't even know where it is.
I think it's in your closet.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think it's in there. I think it's in there. Well, let's see, what else could we ask?
Is this confession or?
No, we're just notice because we don't want to forget anything. 'Cause this is all exciting.
Oh.
This is all exciting. What trips did you take that you had fun with? Do you remember taking any trips? Where did you and Grandpa go that you had that you went, that you thought your favorite trip?
When our kids were little, we went and we had 2 tents, and the boys were on one side. That was when they got a little older. When they were little, we all could sleep in the same tent. But yeah, and we would really saw the world. We went everywhere.
Now, where did you go?
We went to Washington, Washington D.C. We went to New York. Uh, we went into Canada. Uh, we went down in Kentucky a lot.
Now, how did you all travel with that many kids? How do you all travel?
We had three deep. Mom a lot of times would sit in the back, and then she'd have a couple of kids sitting, and poor soul, she couldn't move her feet, and I don't see how she did it. She would sit for hours with some one or two on her lap, and of course there was a lot of us.
What was your favorite trip? Do you remember which one do you remember the most? Which
No.
trip do you remember the most?
I don't know.
Do you remember Washington D.C.?
Oh yeah, we went to Washington, and Pop took the boys down at nighttime to see it all lit up, and we Mom and the girls stayed back, and we had two tents. One was the boys and one was the girl, but they were put together, and there's just the curtain in between. Poor Mom had to hold that thing up. We had a storm. But I think she held it up for too long. Of course, they couldn't get back because it was storming so bad. We were in a camping ground, but there was no facilities. You couldn't go into the house and stay until the storm. Mom would hold the pipe, or it was a big piece of, it wasn't heavy, but it was a thing that went together, and was holding that up when Pop got back. That was in Washington D.C.
Do you remember New York? What was New York like?
We had good time.
Yeah.
We had good time, and Pop wanted us to see the Capitol, and we saw everything that we could see when we were there.
Did you go to New York City? Did you go into New York?
Yeah, we were in New York. We were in New York. Was there a plane that hit a building there? I guess you wouldn't remember. It was a plane hit we weren't very far away, but we went to see it, and the plane was still stuck in the side. Of course, the people got killed, but it was, I guess nobody would, that was a long time ago. That was a long.
Did you go in the Statue of Liberty?
He wanted us to see the war.
Did you go in the Statue of Liberty? Do you remember going in the Statue of Liberty?
Oh, yeah. And we got on a boat and rode down past Alcatraz. That was in Alcatraz where the prisoners were.
That's San Francisco, yeah, San Francisco.
Oh, that's in no, this was in New York, and we rode down a river, not close, but the prisoners were all there, and they waved, but they were, there was no, because the water was, I think they had something in it that they wouldn't even try to get out, try to escape at all. I think that was in New York.
Did you go down to Kentucky? Do you remember going into Kentucky?
Oh yeah, we saw everything that was, we went all over Kentucky.
Did you ever have homemade ice cream? Did you make
my old Kentucky home?
Did you go to my old Kentucky home?
We went any place in Kentucky that you could name. Of course, we had a tent. We had two tents, and they went together like that. And the boys stayed on this side, and the girls stayed on this side. and we had cots that we had.
How did you eat?
We looked like gypsies.
Now, how did you eat? Did you take like a stove with you to cook
Oh,
on?
oh yeah, we had I don't know what kind of, it was about this big. It had 2 burners on it, and then it had a thing that went over the top. If you wanted to bake anything, it went over the top of one of those burners. Oh yeah. Oh, we have.
Oh my gosh.
we I guess we look like gypsies.
But you had a good time.
My father thought he was doing us a favor, and he bought each one of us girls a khaki outfit. we had knickers and a top and a jacket. It was nice. We were happy.
Yeah.
We were happy.
Yeah. You all looked alike.
Well, I think everybody thought we were from an orphanage, you know. Honest, I do think.
Well, then people had big families.
We had a good time, and we saw a lot when we were kids, you know.
Yeah,
We
did.
uh,
You did.
we saw Niagara Falls, and we went. We looked like gypsies, I guess, but they were nice, you know, nice clothes, but we were all alike.
That's good. Yeah. How was Niagara Falls? Do you remember doing anything
Oh,
at the falls?
oh yeah, we were, you know, it was so big and so, oh, it was, you know, I think anything impresses you when you're a kid, even the tall buildings.
Yes, yeah.
We were there one time when a plane hit the building, and it was still in. It was one of the higher buildings too. It's been, you know, over the years. I didn't. Usually I would write something down, but if I wrote it down, it's gone. We had good times.
You did have a good time.
Every Sunday we'd take a little ride.
Did you drive?
Somewhere.
How come you,
No,
did you ever
no,
learn
my
to drive?
father drove. My mother never drove. And and all us kids would, sometimes my mother would sit up in front and she'd have one on her lap, and then she had 2 sitting by her.
How come you never learned how to drive? Why didn't you ever learn how to drive?
I don't know.
Just never learned.
Well, Ferd wasn't very patient.
He never wanted to teach you how.
I drove a little bit, but not much, because if I'd make any kind of mistake, if I'd put, you know, stop, I wouldn't stop real sudden, but he didn't have any patience with, I'd have to pull over and he'd get in the driver's seat.
Oh.
And, you know, after 1 or 2 times, well, I didn't want to drive. I didn't want to. I wasn't learning that way.
Yeah. How did you learn how to quilt? Where did you learn how to do the quilting?
Please?
Where did you learn how to do the quilting? Do you learn how,
Oh,
you know how to quilt?
I
How did
just,
you learn how to do that?
A lady that I took a music lesson, not very long, but the grandma used to do it, and I don't think I do it right.
I think you do.
It looks all right, but
Did you ever do cross stitching? Did you ever do the counter cross stitch?
I tried everything.
You're a good sewer.
But I like quilts. Do you?
I love them.
uh,
They're beautiful.
I-
Yeah, I do like quilts.
Some of the patterns are
Beautiful.
really, really pretty.
They are. Yeah. Where did you get your love for roses? How come you like roses so much?
Oh,
You used to grow roses so much.
I had them when I was in Ludlow. Somebody give me a rose, and I strip it and put it under a glass, and the first thing you know, you see a little thing coming out on it. I just I didn't do it right. I know I didn't do it right, but I get roses once in a while.
Yeah, we did, yeah. We used to have a lot of roses
I
back
used
here.
to, yeah. Uh, well, when they put they had a they had a shed and it had blacktop or something on the top of it, and it came down. It poisoned all the ground there.
Oh,
And, I had a man from the rose place come, and he said that it was like tar that they put on a roof. It was just a little shed, and they didn't have a gutter on it, and it just run down. And he said it poisons the ground there. Said don't put any for years unless you change the soil. So I haven't fooled with roses. I had some out there, but they take a lot of.
they do. They take a long time. Think of anything? Do you remember the Second World War? Do you remember when the Second World War started? Do you remember when they bombed Pearl Harbor?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember where you were when you found out that they bombed Pearl Harbor? Can you
No.
remember? Can't remember.
How many years ago was that?
Let's see. I'm
I-
60, about 65 years ago.
Oh,
A long time
Right.
ago.
yeah. I guess I was.
Do you remember?
I can't remember. I can't remember. I can remember Pearl Harbor, but I don't remember any of the. I don't remember. I think Mom's two brothers were. The one was. He had a pretty good position and I think they allowed one or two of them to stay home with my grandpa. My grandma was dead, and Grandpa Ziegler was by himself, and one or two of the boys never went. Maybe I don't know whether they were the youngest or not. I don't remember.
Do you remember rationing? Do you remember how you had to ration sugar? And do you remember the
Yeah.
coupons? What was that
Oh.
like?
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you?
No,
Oh.
no. What was that like when they would ration the sugar and everything?
Well, you were allowed so much sugar, and if you had a big family, of course, you got more. And if you had, those babies got it too, and we did all right.
'Cause you had the
I mean,
kids.
we didn't have. My father wouldn't. He didn't want to take advantage of the big family to get sugar. We gave a lot of the sugar to people that, a lot of older people didn't get enough. They would give them a. You didn't get very much.
No, you didn't.
You did without, and butter too.
And even shoes, didn't they? You could even wear shoes.
Yeah. Different dairy products. It seemed like with our. Of course, I'm forgetting.
Did you grow a big garden? Did you have a big garden?
No, we didn't have a real big garden.
No garden.
Just we didn't have a garden to can anything. We just eat at table food.
When you had your house here with didn't you freeze a lot of things? You had a big
Oh,
garden.
we used to have a big garden. Yeah. Oh my gosh! That one time I forget how much stuff I put up, and it had to be put up within a short time, and that was the end of it. I couldn't stay up day and night putting up stuff. That's all right for them to eat it, but oh yeah, we had tomatoes and stuff. It don't seem like a big job, but when you have a whole lot and have kids that you have to feed and clothe and wash for, and it was hard work.
That is hard. It is.
I thought it was anyhow.
It is hard work. It is. Did you can it or did you freeze it? Did you can like the vegetables, do the canning, or did you just put them in the freezer?
No, usually in glass jars.
You
I
did the canning?
never use cans very much.
Okay, but you put in like the canning with the jars with the lids on top
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Okay.
And then when you put screw it, and when you hear, if it didn't pop, then you had to open it up and do it all over
I
again.
used to do this. I used to can. I canned
Yeah.
tomatoes, I canned peaches, I canned strawberries.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Like strawberries, we got the freezer then, and that took a lot of that cooking and stuff. And when you cook it, it never looks as good as fresh.
No.
We put it, in those containers and freeze it right away.
That's good. That turns
That,
out good.
yeah,
Okay.
and it tastes more like fresh too, I think.
It does. Do you remember getting your first car? Do you remember what your first car was like? Did you look like with your dad? Do you remember the first car that he bought? Do you remember what kind of car he
Oh,
bought?
I know.
Do you remember?
Grandpa had a car before I knew him, I think. He had a little Ford Fit or some kind of it was a little car. When the first car we went out in was a junker too.
Do you remember the airplanes when they first started flying airplanes?
Oh, yeah. I think you used to run out, you could hear it long before you ever saw it.
Was that exciting when they started to fly the
Oh,
airplanes?
yeah. And they weren't real